Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. When I was in high school, I got bullied a lot, and I often buried my head in food, and I was very overweight as a result of that. I think at my peak, I was a little bit shorter than I am today, but I weighed 200 pounds. I eventually took the GED exam, and I bailed out of high school. And while in college, something happened that resulted in me cleaning up my eating habits. What had happened was the first day of class, there was a girl in the classroom that I liked, and when I got home that day, I was just about to reach for my favorite soda. I used to be a soda-holic, and so was my dad. And so we always had a lot of soda around the house. For some reason, I decided to try some water first. I thought to myself, the soda's not going to go anywhere. You know, if I try some water and I have a bad time with it, I'll have a good laugh and I'll go right back to the soda. No big deal, right? I took the water, and for some reason, and I still cannot explain why I felt that way that day, I instantly realized I could go the rest of my life without another soda. And I've gone another 23 years and never going back to soda. And I really did feel that way that day. I wish I had told somebody. And it was one of the easiest things I ever did. If anything, the only thing that made it hard was all of the societal headwinds that you had to buffet through, right? My parents thought I was crazy for never wanting to drink soda again, having to explain it at parties. Gotta remember, back in 2003, a lot of people had never heard of the concept of bottled water. Well, it's a little bit more popular then, but it was still a novelty at the time, right? Nowadays, you're more likely to find a party where you can't find soda being served, right? But this was 2003. I I started collecting coins with the state quarters program, but one day my mom took me to our local coin shop, and the coin dealer was showing me silver. He had a 1,000 ounce silver bar in his safe, and he showed it to me. I couldn't lift it even with both hands, and I wanted one so badly back then. I think at the time silver was only $6-7 an ounce, and it seemed reachable. I used to love to search rolls of coins and find rare coins or an occasional silver coin, and I thought to myself, I'll just keep searching coins, and when I have enough to trade up for a 1,000 ounce silver bar, I'll trade it. I did the math, I calculated how many rare coins I was finding every weekend, and I quickly realized that I'd be 500 years old before I had enough to trade for that 1,000 ounce silver bar. And so I had to devise a new plan. And so now, for a long time, that 1,000 ounce silver bar was my dream. I moved out of my family's home to go pursue my PhD, and I was making some headway with saving up for that bar when disaster struck. I had met a girl who had taken advantage of me financially, and I nearly dropped out of school. And I broke up with her, but I was so shaken up and heartbroken. I felt like I could never do anything again. Now, the Sunday after we had broken up, we were going to go to a coin show together, but now we broke up, and I almost didn't want to go to that coin show. I woke up. It was a really nice sunny day. If you want to Google it, it was June 13, 2010. And I thought I'll go to that coin show to maybe meet a different girl. And so I jumped on my bicycle and I rode it to the coin show. And by the time I had gotten myself immersed in the coin show, I forgot that I even needed a girl to come with me. And so that began my relationship with myself. And not long after I broke up with her, I still remember the exact day when I first had 1,000 ounces of silver. It wasn't in a bar, but altogether I had 1,000 ounces. It was on Veterans Day of that year, and I distinctly remember that day for a big reason. I lost my home when I was with the girl. I was living in my office on campus, and I'd gone out to the coin dealer to buy some foreign silver coins, if I remember correctly, because they were going for a discount relative to the silver spot price. And when I got back to my apartment, i.e. my office, they were locked because I forgot it was Veterans Day. And so I then remembered that there was a roof that had a latch that had like a door that you could open from the roof. And I climbed the top of the roof and I got back to my office, and then I celebrated. And then I realized that, wait a minute, I don't want to trade all of that for a 1,000-ounce silver bar. This is a lot of sentimental value. All the silver I've been accumulating since I was 12 years old. I was 23 years old at this point. I didn't want to trade it up. And so it turned out I wouldn't have a 1,000-ounce silver bar until 4 years later, when I got a signing bonus from a job, and I took that plus a bunch of other money I had saved, and I bought a 1,000-ounce silver bar. Now I have 3 of them. As I was getting ready to graduate from Rochester Institute of Technology, I was having a ball with myself, but I was watching several of my classmates in their graduation ceremony, and they all had relationships. Some of them married, some of them just dating. But I felt embarrassed by it. And I wanted to do one last hurrah to try to meet the right person. During one of my AI classes, I had written an AI for the game of Othello. And I decided to try to make that into the world's strongest Othello AI. And I thought that might impress a girl, especially within the computer science department. Well, I didn't meet anybody through that. In fact, to this day, the games have been an utter failure at attracting girls. Much worse so than my other choices of hobbies. I'll get to that in a second. But instead, I competed at the Computer Olympiad, and it helped me get over my big fear of flying. I used to hate getting on an airplane. But because I needed to compete for the Computer Olympiad, I kind of got over it as a result. So it wasn't a total loss. And that takes us to... I'm so glad I had the games during the quarantine, because I distinctly remember the first day everything was closed. I went home and I started writing an AI for the game of backgammon. And so that became my companion for the first part of that quarantine. And then I started writing an AI for the game of Ticket to Ride Poland in support of the whole Ukraine situation. Now, the game has a very interesting footnote, by the way. I was working at a technology startup, and I had toxic chemistry, and the startup more or less folded. But we had signed an NDA that everything you do within 5 years of leaving the job belonged to the company. And so as a last FU to the company, I started writing the game Ticket to Ride Poland exactly a day after the 5-year anniversary of leaving the company. And I recorded a video of myself beginning the project just for documentation and to laugh at the company while I was at it. I was working at a tutoring center, and I ran into toxic blood with my boss as well, and so I buried my head with the work with the students. My student had brought a really fancy periodic table to the classroom, and it showed the rarity of all of the elements. And while looking at it, I was about to show him why it's a good opportunity to buy silver right now. Silver was going for 100 times cheaper than gold, but it's only 10 times more common. I was just about to show him that when I realized that bismuth is only a few times more common than gold and a few thousand times cheaper. And so I went home and I ordered a 10-pound bismuth bar. And before I knew it, I was making crystals. And before I knew that, I was at an art show. And before I knew that, the bismuth art and art in general has helped me make a lot more connections than the computer games ever could dream of, right? And I wish I had found the right identity all those years ago. But you know what helped me find it? The toxic boss. Had I had a good boss, I might not have spent so much time looking at the guy's periodic table just to strike a conversation with them. And why am I bringing up these stories? I learned from these experiences that life is not a series of event after event after event. It's more of a chain of events, right? If I didn't have the bully at high school, I'd still be very overweight today. I might not have discovered the art. If I didn't have the girl taking advantage of me when I was working on my PhD, plus the reason I had her was probably because of the bullying earlier, I may not have had all the wonderful stuff that I have today, right? So when I have a bad moment, like the other day, when I had the food allergy situation at work, I try to remember that these events are all chains of events, right? You take away any one event, as much as you might curse, oh, I wish this didn't happen when I was 5 years old. I wouldn't dare going into the universe's CPU and hitting the delete button on that event. That would probably set off a catastrophe if you could do that, right? I wouldn't dare do that, right? All right, so just some thoughts on the recent situation. This is the Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.